הלב נלחם בדאגות, כולם יחזרו הביתה, נחכה להם למטה, הלוואי נדע בשורות טובות. כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד, אפילו כשקשה לראות. כולם ביחד, אף אחד פה לא בודד, שישרפו המלחמות. עם ישראל חי, אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים. עם ישראל חי, בעליות בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא אבדה האמונה. עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי. עם ישראל חי. אור ארצי נחלתנו, לא תיפול כעת רוחנו, מסביב ברזל של חרבות. ויונה תפרוס כנפיים, התקווה בת שנות 2000, עוד נצא לשיר ברחובות. כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד, אפילו כשקשה לראות. כולם ביחד, אף אחד פה לא בודד, שישרפו המלחמות. עם ישראל חי, אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים. עם ישראל חי, בעליות בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. זה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא אבדה האמונה. הקדוש ברוך הוא יכול עלינו, כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי. כי עם ישראל חי.
Ham Israel. Hi, my dear folks. How you guys are doing today? Good morning, or good evening, or whatever the time you're in. I hope you're hearing my voices, or my voice at least, not in the plural. So, yes, that's a beautiful song, right? Ham Israel. Hi. Well, anyways, folks, today, the second day, I would like to do the Greek gods and their invasion. I mean, today, I want to continue on the same topic. It's not about the God, but we are going to dive into some different, the continuation of the same thing, but different phase into that. I just gave you the gist of the gods, gist of the idea about the Greek gods. Why I would tell you how it was merged into Christianity after explaining today's subject on today's topic, and then I'll be going back again to explain those things. But anyway, how you guys are doing? Shabbat Shalom, Shavua May God bless you, and I hope you enjoy this Shabbat today. I hope you celebrated it. And may God bless you guys. So let's dive in. Yesterday we saw some of them about the gods and everything, right? So one thing you must know in your life that you would know the freedom of living only when you were lived under the country uh, which was invaded by any other foreign forces. Because a country invaded by the foreign forces are so difficult to live because you do not know what is the foreign force entering, who is the ruler, and how he would be, and what all things he would do. Would he be a cruel person or a barbarian? You never knew all these things, and also the invaders, the new regime that when they come in, they don't know anything or much about the country where they're invading. Maybe they may have some, a creamy ideas, but once they come in, and then they might face a different type of a situations, different type of a problems, which would be very very difficult for them to address it because they never experienced, because the cultural different, the environment different, the practices, habits, everything is totally different, and to control the country, it's so difficult. So they might use the force, they might use some rough and tough situations, but that's not easy until unless if you are in that situation, only you would feel and you would know how hard it is to live under the invasion of the foreign forces. It's not easy, folks. So when we read the Bible, when we read any stories, imagine or at least try to understand how the situation was, what was the situation, how these people were living out those days, what was the problems they were, having it, because the books what you are reading may not express everything in detail. They might have given you only a few informations, but it's your your what I can say enthusiasm that you should go and find some other materials to read and to know if you're interested in. If you wanted to know the God one who you are worshiping and one you are following with your faith. So that's what I would do. I would like to know each and every detail of the word what I'm reading in. So when we dive in and see what happened during the Jerusalem period, during the invasion of Greek, we need to know on the first century what happened there, how Jewish people lived there, what are the problems they faced. You know, we read this yesterday, or we saw this yesterday. We were having like 10 top, different gods, and there have regulations, rules, and which god and what they were doing, the characteristics and the attributes of the god that we were seeing yesterday, right? So the invasion comes from there. The Greek, Rome is going to invade Jerusalem, Middle Eastern countries, right? So when they invaded, like it was all this all happening before the birth of Jesus Christ. Everything was happening before the birth of Jesus Christ. Herodian rules 6 BCE, like almost like 6th century BCE means 400 600 years before Jesus was born. So at least what happened here, um, let me see. Um, at least 6 years or 4 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, this Herodian ruling was there, and during the time when Herod was died, and his son comes to the position, and his name is like Archelaus. So when he came to the position, he was such a rude guy, he's a rude person, and there was a lot of Jewish revolt happened at the time, and then he killed almost like 4,000 Jews at the time period. So he was called back to uh, Rome and or Greek or Greece, and somehow this Herodian rule was kind of finishing it up, and this was getting a little bit silenced at the time. So they were sending out, like, by the time of sixth, common era. I mean, like, maybe by the time Jesus might have born or something, they were coming in like procreators. They were introducing some of the jobs called procreators, and they sent to the city of Jerusalem and Israel. So what happened, what these guys were doing, these guys were collecting taxes from the Jewish people, and they started abusing, when the because of the revolt happened back in Jerusalem against these Jew Archelaus and everything. So when the procreators were abusing the public and getting taxing, and for anything, everything, wherever and whenever they could able to, and there were a lot of misuse of the power, and they didn't understand the Jewish belief, and brought their idols. They brought their own idols, to inside the Jerusalem city, and made this, um, I don't know what to say, because their own symbols and idols, everything was brought in to the Jerusalem city, and they're trying to mix into this culture, right? This was happening at the beginning of this Hellenistic period, because these things, we call it as an Hellenistic period, right? So, and the problem at the time was Jews were not in united, unity, and there was a lot of divisions among them. A lot of people in the Jewish itself, and they were divided themselves. That was pathetic situation. When a country is attacked, it is an a must in what I can say. It's very much necessary that um, this country should be united together. If they are separated, they are dispersed in groups, and it is easy for any invader to capture the country very easy. That's what happened in even in India when the invasion happened on the up north, when the Islamic forces entered in from the through Afghanistan, because they could able to easily cruise around these kings, because the kings at the time were not united together. So they're all separated. So for the enemy to enter in was easy. So this is what the same thing happening here. Jewish people were not in the united condition. They're all separated in different groups. So it was easy for the Greek force to enter in and capture them quickly, and also control the city and control the country as quick as possible. So, but at the same time, they were enforcing to bring their culture, bring their habits into the city. So there were groups like Sadducees, and there were a group like Pharisees. So we'll read some more in details when we talk about the Sadducees and Pharisees in upcoming episodes. So the Jerusalem, at first century time, the the town or the city was completely in chaotic situation, total chaos during the first century. One side, Jerusalem was divided into pieces by the group of people. The other side, the invasion comes in. And the third thing, the invaders were trying to control everywhere, including the Jerusalem temple, and they were trying to introduce their habits, their cultures. They were bringing all their pagan worship in this in the country. So they were doing anything, everything possible in the temple itself. So it was not an easy thing for Jerusalem to have. And also they were taxing these people in the place. There's huge taxation was going on. People couldn't believe it, and also there was a lot of rough and rude behaviors from these Hellenistic people, because these soldiers were killing the Jewish people, raping the women, and so many things were happening during the situation. It was so tense the situation during the first century of Israel, especially in Jerusalem. So um, there were three main groups were there, as I said, that Pharisees and Sadducees, and also the Essenes, the other group of people. These people were very, very, what I can say, prominent those days in Jerusalem. Okay, and then also, if you see at the time in Rome, I mean, there was a king called Caligula. When Caligula was up here, this Caligula made a lot of problem because he wanted his figure or his statue in the temple. So he was trying to, bring his statue inside the temple and make the people to worship, in that area. So there were the temple was built at the time. Herod was given some permission to build, alter the temple, and that was built nicely. But Jerusalem was so busy in running the temple, because 24 into 7 there was pilgrimage always coming in. So then from the neighboring countries, especially from Egypt and other countries, people were pouring in to do the sacrifices. So the Jerusalem temple was night and day, it was busy, and the whole area was always smelling with the roasted meat all the time. They offer the meat and then cut them, sacrifice, and then roast it on the same place. So there were so many things were going on. A continuous burning was happening at the Jerusalem temple at the time. And Caligula introduces now. He wants to change that one. He wants to bring his idol worships into the temple, and also his statue to be inside the temple. So that was another issue that Jewish couldn't accept it. They would always revolts and always fight between Jerusalem people and Jewish people, and also with the Greco-Roman people over there. It was not a peaceful situation at the first century. It was so tense situation. Most of the time, it was so difficult to live in the Jerusalem city. Sadducees, they were very close to the Roman authorities, so they kind of taken over the temple. But Pharisees, they were against the Roman people. They were against the Roman kingdom. But at the same time, they were not completely, with a forcefully, they were resisting them. But they were against the Roman people. But Sadducees, some of them wanted the power. They were kind of a traitors. They were, going along with the Roman people. So in the Jewish, when these invaders came in, this is another one more thing you should understand. When the Greek people came in, they saw the Jerusalem temple, and there's only one temple, and there's only one God. This concept was so new to these Greek people, because they were used to 15 million gods like Hinduism. Everything was God for them. So they had multiple polytheistic, the almighty system. When they came into Jerusalem, they saw that Jerusalem was functioning with, monotheistic God, one word, one temple, one tabernacle, one worship. So they were surprised, and also they were so attracted by the Jewish worshiping and prayers, and so many people started converting into Judaism. Even when in the Rome was filled, I mean, yeah, at Rome city, people started converting into Judaism. That's why the Rome had a lot of Jewish people over there. So lot of Greco-Roman people were trying to get into Judaism because the Judaism attracted them so nicely because it was so they were never they didn't have so many answers in the system where they were in. It was a polytheistic God system, but when they came into Judaism, they were so satisfied and they were so amazed to have a single God and to have the life settled in a way that in a very morality was so high. So they wanted to adapt this system, and they were jumping in that time before Christianity. Everybody was converted into Judaism. Most of the people were converting into Judaism, unless at this point. Okay, so it wasn't happening in Jerusalem itself. Okay, now and we can see so many other people, other sects also emerging in the Jerusalem city. Qumranites were emerging in. They were living outside the Jerusalem city, and also, Nero was in the Rome, and he was making so many problems over there in the Rome, and he was giving a lot of terrifying problems to the Jewish people over there, and especially when the city was burned, almost like a lot of places were burned when Nero was there at Rome, and also. Okay, it was happening in CE, Christian era, at common era at 65, after the death of Jesus Christ. This is happening. All right, Judea was mixed with the Hellenistic population. When these people came and settled, basically they were coming into the Sisera. Sisera was the naval, I mean, the city where the harbor was there, and it is a harbor city, is a port, the main port city for Hellenistic Greek to come in and settle down there. So completely, they were bringing all the Hellenistic habits and cultures in this city first, and this city become very popular in those days. So what happened when these things were happening? There were so many groups that developing inside the Jerusalem itself, into the Israel itself. They were trying to fight with the Roman Greco-Roman people, but it was difficult. It was not easy because they are with the soldiers. As I said, that they are coming with all the military forces, with all the equipments with them, and all the daggers and all those things. But here again in Jerusalem, there were not an organized army or a military at the time. So how to go and attack them, how to defend them, it was not easy because already there were several groups were there, and it was not easy to connect these groups to fight against these Greek people. So, but there is only one way they were thinking, that it was called, like it was almost like a terrorist attack. It called called what called Zikariat. They called Zikariat, meaning that go behind these people and uh, cut their throat, by daggers, like sharp daggers, kill the people over there. That's how these soldiers, like these Jewish group were attacking the Greek soldiers. That was one of the terrorist situation that happened in the Jerusalem city at the time. And what happened in even then, these Hellenistic people, these Greek people, are mingling with the Jewish population, trying to reset the rules of the temple, bringing the pagan sacrifices, you know, uh, bringing the pagan sacrifices. Where is that? There you go. Pagan sacrifices, and where is that called? Okay, yeah, and even just at the entrance of the town, entrance of the temple, they were started sacrificing, all the pagan sacrifices, and then they were started putting all the big eagle statues, and there were bird statue in front of the gate, and they were doing all sides, so, sorts of nonsense at the temple. It was which was creating a lot of intolerance among the Jewish community. Especially, there were groups called zealots. Zealots were about to fight all the time, with this Rome, Greek soldiers or Greek army. So there was a tense situation always in the town, in the city. Most of the people, especially all the rabbis or something, most people, they ran away from the city because the temple was ruled by Sadducees, not by Pharisees, and the temple was completely ruled by Sadducees, and most of the rabbis just left the place because the place was so unrest. There was no peace at all. Always, fighting, killing, dying, and raping the women, and how much atrocity could happen. That was unbelievably happening at the time of first century. This is what the situation of the first century. On one side, they were trying to take the temple. One side, they're trying to put all the pagan systems inside the temple, and also they started, sacrificing the in front of the temple itself, all the pagan sacrifices. So there was so many things happening at the time of the first century. At the time, what happened was they saw a guy, and they were his name was Flores, and they were trying to bribe him. Jewish people trying to get him some money to stop all these practices if he could do it. But instead, that guy, what he did, he went and stole 17 talents from inside the temple itself. That was another thing that like that they were saying. So the Jewish people are tortured by these Greek people, and they could not able to believe or trust anyone at the time, and there was a lot of tension and violence between Romans and Jews. Okay, uh, Romans attacked Jewish people very heavily, abused the temple practices. They tried to bring the pagan gods inside the temple. The eagle god was kept outside the Jerusalem temple. Finally, the Jewish revolt was started on 66 CE. The revolt was started 66 CE, that means Common Era, and zealots who were zeal towards their God and the nation, couldn't tolerate this anymore. They couldn't tolerate these problems anymore. So they started attacking. The tensions were heightened, and Jews couldn't tolerate Romans anymore, taxing, abusing, occupying. Jews were tortured to hell. One group emerged that was called Zealots, and they started playing these Zakari, which is killing them behind, going behind and killing them with the daggers. And daggers with the knife, killing them with the neck, just like a terrorist attack. So when revolt started, the country was divided into military districts. So immediately what they did was they put in the divided the military section by section, called them as the military districts, and placed all the military officials there in those cities. Nero appointed Vespasian to deal this one. His father was a tax collector. Vespasian was a very, very tough guy. So he brought Titus with him. One of the other guy named is Titus. So they both again came with the all the forces. They killed almost like 40,000 Jewish people. They captured only 1,200 people, put them in the jail, but 40,000 were killed. At the time of Vespasian invasion. At the time, think, guys, just think. Right from the beginning, you just think what's going on there in the Judaism or in the Jewish people in the first century. Terrible, terrible things were happening in the first century. Lot of things were happening. There was a lot of unrest. There was no place for the Jewish people to run, and they were, they were just like and helpless, hopeless. They were expecting someone to come and take some revenge against these Romans or some relief. They were really expecting somebody to come in and to take the leadership and role, because already the Jewish country was divided into multiple groups, and the expectations were so heightened up. But here the tensions were so heightened up, there was no rest, because people were coming from pilgrimage from outside the country, like Egypt and everyone. And when even they send money from Egypt or some other places for the worshipping sacrifices, all this money were taken by the Romans. They looted all the money from the temple, which is so sad, because temple was suffering not to maintain their services or the building, because Rome looted everything. Florus, he took 17 talents right in front of them. So, like this, the whole Jerusalem was so tensioned up during the first century. First century was chaotic. um, no, diversity of Jewish groups, no unity with the Jewish group, and foreign invasion, Greek attack, and not only that, Greek compulsion of their Hellenistic practices and pagan sacrifices and idol worshipping. Everything was introduced into the town at the time, into the city at the time. Being a common public, how would you expect these folks? If you don't worship them, if you don't do anything, and you will be, murdered, or you will be killed, or you will be given heavy punishment. That's what the situation at the time of the first century. And why? What happened during the Jesus period? This all I'm talking even beyond Jesus period, before the destruction of the second temple, because it was almost like a 65, 68. The complete, the problem broken up, and the revolt broke up, and that time everything Jewish people got killed, and then the Romans came and destroyed the whole temple. That happened almost AD 70. So before that, all these things were going on, and Messiah came and gone. Jesus came and gone. So let us see what happened at the time of Jesus when he arrived to do this thing. This we will continue at the next episode, so that we can understand much more about this one. So, folks, this is the first century story in a very, very short nutshell. I don't want to go in very deep, because there are two authors. One is called Josephus Flavius, the other one is called Philo. They were the closest authors who lived in the first century, almost like AD 67 or something. So they were the very closest to people who wrote, who saw, who heard what happened at the time of Jerusalem. They wrote books. Josephus wrote 3 books, which is called Jewish Wars, Jewish Antiquity, and also autobiography of Josephus Flavius. Most of the theologians always refer Josephus book all the time. So this first century, a chaotic century. First century, a chaotic time for the Jewish history. You never know, because unless you learn the history, how much suffer they took at the time. When all the soldiers are walking in the street, killing the people and raping, and that was so bad at the time period, folks. It was not easy it never easy for Jewish anytime. Even now, it is never easy for them. But they are God's chosen people. Could you believe that? So that's how it is, folks. So next time we will see what Jesus did when he came, and what was the groups were functioning at the time, and how the Daniel prophecy was interpreted at the time. Everything we will see next time in my next video. Till then, my dear friends and brothers and sisters, you have a wonderful night, and Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. May God bless you. God be with you. Take care, folks, and I will meet you next time.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם